The girl first saw the young boy coming up the sidewalk past the Fayetteville ice plant. He didn't see her and her boyfriend until they were all nearing the corner of West and Dixon Streets below the University of Arkansas. The boy's eyes got so big he thought they'd popped out of his head. The girl nudged her beau to check the kid out, but he wasn't very interested and just grunted. The boy was maybe 12 or so and looked like Beaver Cleaver with his short brown hair, blue jeans, plaid shirt, and tennis shoes. He was kind of cute, the girl thought, although so thin he was bordering on skinny. She could tell he was fascinated by them. The boy meant no harm, scary. He just never seen anybody like him before. He was intrigued, that's all. He's like all these squares down here, the girl's boyfriend complained as the couple turned up Dixon towards the university. He'll grow up to be just another inbred cracker yelling at us, man. Oh, Bernie, the girl said, cut it out. They aren't all like that. And they're not crackers here, that's Georgia. Bernie grumbled. Remember that Ulster country couple when the car broke down? The girl reminded Bernie. They were way cool. The boy was walking along the other side of the street, keeping up with the unusual pair, but pretending like he wasn't, and like he wasn't watching them for all he was worth. The girl smiled at the boy, but he turned his head away really fast. That tickled her. Don't encourage him, Bernie said. These hicks will think we're going to reefer him to death or something. Bernie, you're like so neurotic, the girl laughed. You've got to stop smoking before we go out. It's not like home. Nobody notices there. I'm hip, he sighed. I can walk around the city anywhere. There's no crazy okie bugging me. They're Arkies, she corrected him. And besides, we don't have to stay. We can split for home anytime we please. Don't start that jive again, Bernie said, all frustrated, his hands flipping so wild in the air that the little kid across the street stopped in his tracks and watched with his mouth wide open. It ain't cool. I came down here to be with the people and get some material to write about. I ain't going till then, you dig? I dig, the girl said, thinking what a silly thing it was to leave New York where they had friends and nobody called them names, and to come to some out-of-the-way southern town to study people that they, at least Bernie anyway, couldn't stand for a second. All this for art, she thought. What a load of baloney. She smiled over at the boy again and thought she saw a smile flicker on his face. He might even have been digging her, the little devil. Maybe he was small for his age or something and was kind of getting off on a strange-looking chick. That was okay, too. That didn't bother her. Come on, Bernie mumbled in that way of his the girl sometimes called New York wimpy. Let's go get some grub. We got to work in the library tonight and I want to write later. Cool? Cool, the girl said, sneaking another peek at their small shadow. Let's split. When the couple turned on Arkansas Avenue, heading for Hog Heaven, a real-life greasy spoon with great food up past the north side of campus, they saw the boy for the last time. He had a funny look in his eyes, like he was unhappy they weren't going his way anymore. The girl gave him a quick wink and a wave, but he acted like he didn't see her. He was a cute kid, and she liked the way he was interested in them. It made her think all the people down here weren't the same, that maybe some of them might be something different than a hillbilly someday. Boy, was I surprised when I saw them right down there on Dixon and West. Geez, right in the middle of town, or sort of, at least real near the university anyway. I couldn't wait to tell Troy and the other guys. I bet they never seen any of them anywhere. I never noticed until I was nearly at the corner past the ice plant, and I stood there a second until they turned up Dixon and headed towards the university. I had heard of them or something, but I hadn't seen any of them before. The woman was all dressed in black, just like the man, except that she didn't have one of those little caps or hats like he was wearing, and like you see on French painters in books sometimes. She was really kind of pretty, and I would have liked to have checked her out better, but I just walked up Dixon like I was heading that way, and acted like I wasn't watching or anything. Every now and then it seemed like they saw me looking at them, but I quick turned away so I wouldn't be noticed. The guy she was with was pretty weird. I mean, he had that little French painter's hat and was wearing dark sunglasses even though it wasn't that bright outside. He acted kind of huffy towards her, and he for sure wasn't interested in me. He had a mustache and his beard was growing out, which is strange for here, and he walked funny, kind of like he was bopping along or something like that. You could tell just looking at him that he wasn't from around here. He must have been from up north or back east, but I couldn't really tell. All I knew was that he wasn't from this area. But now the girl, she was okay. She was all the stuff he was, but she was neat looking too. Her black sweater was tight and looked real good. Her pants were tight too, and I looked over a couple of times at that. She kept looking at me and she smiled every time, and once I kind of smiled back, but it was pretty embarrassing and I looked away real fast. They were real different and I liked that in a funny sort of way. Even the guy, because I figured it must be something to be that weird in a little town like this. I hadn't seen anybody else be it. I wondered who they were and where they really came from. I knew for a certainty that they were going to the university. Well, they were something unusual, all right, and that was pretty darn neat. And the girl, kind of being nice looking, was pretty cool. She seemed real calm about everything, just walking along, checking everything out, and not letting anything bug her. I felt that way when she would smile at me. You could tell she was a nice person. I shouldn't have thought bad things about her, but I couldn't help it. She was real pretty. Right past the Ozark Theater, they went up Arkansas Avenue, and that's when I had to stop following them. The guy just walked on, but the girl turned back and looked at me again. She smiled me a real nice smile and waved. I sort of smiled back, I guess, and then stopped and watched them go up the street until they disappeared. I felt kind of bad when they were gone and lonely, like when you look up in the sky and see a plane going over and you wonder who's on board and where it's going. Kind of a funny sadness though, where you feel good and bad at the same time. It's hard to say, I don't know. Anyway, that was the way I felt, and since I didn't have to go home right away, I walked back to the Ozark and stood out front for a few minutes looking at the preview pictures. After a little bit, I took off down University Street past the cemetery and headed home in a kind of roundabout way. All the way back, I thought about those two people I'd seen. For the longest time, I could picture them in my mind real good. They were different, unusual. After a while, though, I couldn't see them so clear in my mind's eye, and their memory kind of faded. But it never left me completely. Now and again, I wonder about them, wonder where they went, what happened to them, who they became. Yeah, I still wonder about them sometimes.